despite the
I
fact that
don't
I
think it's
support
going to replace video games that you're sitting down at your
exactly, and that's
desk
why
and
I call it a
you're
fad. I know it's gonna last a lot longer than most fads, but the fact
But
of
you
the
can
matter
say
is it's a gimmick.
no, man. And the only reason why I say that is because then you're saying
What do
that
you
video
mean?
games are a
No,
gimmick.
it's not a gimmick. It's
Okay,
absolutely a
okay.
gimmick.
Corona. If you ever do try VR, there's this one thing that I do want.
You go back in that hole. I'm kind of dead.
Yeah, there's this one game that I do want you to try if ever you get back into, or if ever you try it again. It's called Boneless.
I do try it fairly regularly. I just don't like
Okay.
it.
Well, I'm only going to speak for a quick second on this before think of it like entertainment more so than it is a game. The reason why I say that
do,
is
and that's why I call it a gimmick.
comic books, right? That wasn't a gimmick. You got TV and movies and TV shows.
Actually, comic books are a gimmick.
Video games.
They're books, but their gimmick is that they have pictures, and the pictures are show the action.
Okay, now all it's
So
doing
it-
is arguing semantics by nitpicking certain things to make sure
I'm not.
that...
No, I'm not. I'm not.
What I'm going to try to do is
I'm
make it
saying.
in general sense so that we can kind of overlook that. and not
Okay.
get stuck on it.
Okay, I'm not arguing over whether or not it. I'm not arguing whether or not it's good or bad. I'm arguing that it is a gimmick and that you are missing
Everything's a gimmick.
if you
The
deny that.
life in which you live is a gimmick because guess what? That's going to be short-lived, right? We all live short lives.
No,
right?
that's not what a gimmick is. Gimmicks aren't supposed to be short-lived. That is.
Oh, never mind.
You're misusing that word, bud. Gimmick is anything that has one specific quality that makes it worth getting. So like if you play a game like
You mean the
Fallout
things that
VR.
random people lashes them into doing.
So motion controls for the Wii were a gimmick. I don't think motion controls are ever going to go away. I think they're really important. But games that use exclusively motion controls or use a lot of motion controls are games with a gimmick. A gimmick is just a thing that it's like a selling point. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, no, I do. Same argument I had with my good friend from high school where he said that I wasted my money when I got the Xbox Kinect.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't think I did because I was like, all right, this is something fun. Don't get me wrong. I had fun with it and I did it, but yeah, it definitely was a gimmick. Do I regret making that purchase? No. It was something I got to enjoy.
I think it was a gimmick, but it was a fun gimmick.
Well, no, see, and the reason why I say like that's a gimmick is because that's almost like a bit of a technology that obviously you don't see much, but years upon years that it's VR has been kind of consistently saying the same new stuff is coming out. I mean, the biggest drop by Steam, right?
Oh.
Half-Life Alyx.
Okay, I understand that, but would you say motion controls are a gimmick?
What do you mean?
What do you?
VR uses motion controls, right?
Yes, but I mean like the Wii. Do you think the Wii's
Oh,
motion
shit.
controls
There's
were
a lot of them.
Yeah, in some ways. But
Okay,
like,
but it wasn't short-lived. It's still lasting to this day. The Wii's motion controls are entirely what VR's motion controls were based off of. In fact, Nintendo almost sued Oculus because they had a patent on the Wiimote, and the Oculus remote was so similar.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where I'm going with this. Where I'm like, okay, you got the concept of gimmick. Well, the gimmick is
I see some very inconsistency when it comes to melee.
No, it's just because flood forms aren't supposed to be meleeed.
That's right.
You gotta use a brute shot then, because it cuts them apart.
Okay, you got essentially the whole concept behind an entire platform, right? Well, the reason why you wouldn't consider like Nintendo's thing in a way like a gimmick is what their gimmick is, and it's just the company's gimmick. And in the sense of gimmicks are, aha, look, this is the grabbing factor. Well, hey, look at that, man. PlayStation, Nintendo, all that kind of stuff. Well, right? Well, Nintendo went with like the whole 3DS at the time, doing that, they're stuck with it, and they have a lot of people with it. That's essentially what sets them apart from everything else.
I agree with you. I don't think gimmicks are bad, is my point. I just don't.
Gimmicks typically go ahead and say that it's a short-lived thing to essentially...
No, they don't.
All right,
That's a fad. No, that's a fad. You're
but did you
conflating.
say fad to begin with?
I said fad in the first place, but you're conflating the word fad and gimmick as two different things. I do think in a few years the current way that we experience VR will be considered a gimmick, because I think there will be better technology that improves upon it. I think it'll be considered, or not a gimmick, I mean a fad. What a gimmick is a gimmick is not short-lived. A gimmick is the entire selling point of something. The Nintendo Wii's gimmick was motion controls. The Switch's gimmick is portability. Those are all gimmicks. I don't think gimmicks are bad, though. Gimmicks are what push.
Okay. So then we're gonna go back to the whole fact that, like, you did say fad.
Yes,
Right? And the
I
only
do
reason
believe
I'm
it's
saying
bad.
that we've established on the whole gimmick,
shit, I'm dead.
but, like, the reason why I would find it hard to say that it's a fad is it'd be the same way of saying that your PS3 is a fad when the PS4 comes out. Because then guess what? You're gonna get rid of your PS3 because you're gonna be playing
I can
PS4.
agree with you to some extent, but I would consider it more like buying an Xbox One X right now while the Project Scarlet is in development. Makes sense? Because, like, we already know that in 3 years, VR is going to be way more impressive than it is right now. To me, it's not worth it for me to invest in it and try to waste that time adjusting to it, whenever it's just going to be better and easier to adjust to in a couple of years anyway.
Yeah, but that would mean that it wasn't a fad.
Um,
A fad is
No.
something that dies off.
I believe that VR, the way that we experience it right now, will die off and be replaced with something else, which is not what you're understanding.
No.
And therefore, it
You're
would be
at the
because if
small
you're-
little details, and what I mean by that is things evolve.
I don't think it's going to be a small detail. I think it's going to be a very big change, and that's why I think the headsets and the helmets are a fad. I think there's going to be a way, like an actual either a VR platform in the future.
So are you
that
talking about neuro transitions? Because I mean, trust me, I've kind of gotten into that conceptually. I remember doing this research like so many years ago after I watched
conceptually
SAO.
something like that.
I was
Maybe
like,
not
wow.
that specifically, but something along those lines where VR is going to get so impressive that you don't necessarily need to wear a headset, or if you do, you don't look like a jackass waving around your room like an idiot. I think there's going to be a huge change like that within the next 5 years or so, and therefore I
Does
don't
that
want to
make it
adjust to
not
the
VR
helmet
anymore?
gimmick. What?
Does that make it not VR anymore then?
No, it would still be VR. It would be virtual reality.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be a fad. I mean, the whole concept is just saying.
I'm not saying VR as a whole is a fad. I'm saying VR headsets are a fad, and you're acting like I'm conflating the two.
Well, no. It wouldn't be a fad. It's
Oh
the
my god.
evolutionary process of it. No. Because you're
The
not genuinely-
headsets themselves are a fad, bro.
back. Delta.
Okay.
Look up
That's not
Look
how
up what a
fad
fad is, please. Look up the definition of a fad. It's not because it evolves doesn't make it a fad. A fad gets replaced by something quickly. The headsets are going
So Star
quickly to
Wars
replace by
Episode 1 was a fad because Star Wars Episode 2 came out? I mean, this is what we're saying is like,
No,
you're thinking of it like old
no.
technology is considered a fad, but no, it's the
No,
predecessor to
no,
what
it's
you're gonna
no, it's
currently
not.
have.
No, it's not. I'm not saying all
What?
technology is considered a fad, bro.
Oh.
I don't think the Xbox 360 was a fad. However, I think Halo 3 was a fad because it immediately got replaced by Call of Duty Modern Warfare, and everyone left Halo for Call of Duty. That's a fad. That's a fucking fad. Yeah, I am. I love Halo 3. It's my favorite Halo, but it was still a fad. I don't think a fad.
Because he knows exactly where he's gone ahead and made some mistake, and he's trying to make sure. that
No, I'm
everyone-
not doing damage control. Look up what a fucking fad is, you retard.
Oh, I know exactly what a fad is.
No, apparently you fucking don't, because you're misusing
Isn't
the
it the
word.
liberals that go ahead and yell and
What
cuss when they
exactly
can't
am I
go ahead and
looking
make their point properly?
I'm-
I mean,
Bro, you're
Is
fucking
that-
sitting here personally insulting me and saying I'm damage controlling when I'm not. I'm not fucking
Well,
yelling
you
because
are.
I'm a liberal retard. I'm yelling because you're
Halo
fucking
is some
annoying.
sort of super weapon.
oh,
You're
so
talking
sorry.
over. You're talking over me and not letting me finish
No,
my
I'm not.
sentence.
I've actually let you go
You
ahead.
just talked over me.
And then I go ahead. Well,
You
yeah,
just-
I'm gonna
you
go ahead and
literally
let you
just
know
talked
where
over
it's
If I
me.
have the
going.
clearance or not.
You literally just talked
Where's
over
our
me after you
Oh,
said
I
you weren't
literally
going to
just
do
talked
that.
over you.
Ma'am,
Were you
we're going to
were you
pass
saying
right
anything
over
that
it.
was beneficial for the
Given what we
conversation?
know about this ring, it's even more important that we
Right
capture
then,
the
because
prophet
you
of
can't
regret.
use that as
Find
the
out why
example.
he came to Earth, why he came here.
Listen to me.
Take first platoon.
A fad
Start drop.
does
Secure
not have to
Allentown.
be short-lived.
Sergeant, load
It
up
does
the
not
flight
have to be
intelligence.
something
Follow
that can
the
be
man.
replaced. A fad is something that is adopted with widespread enthusiasm with very little question about it. You are acting like a fad is something it's not, and like I'm saying something I'm not.
Hang on
I
to your
want you to
helmet.
Google the textbook definition of a fad so that you can read it aloud to me and explain to me why you think I am misusing the word or why you think that VR is not a fad. But I want you to understand the textbook definition first. So
Mind the bump. Could we possibly make any more noise? I guess so.
Artillery disabled, Sergeant. Landing zone secure for the moment.
I hear you. Starting our approach. Hang tight.
Easier said than done. Inbound Phantoms, Chief. The Covenant has control of the bridge ahead. They're going to try and bottle us up on this side of the gorge. controls to extend the bridge should be in this structure. Watch out, Chief. Wraiths on the far side.
Should be a fence.
Restart it.
We gotta neutralize those turrets! You stumpy little porker! Clear this, LZ! The Pelicans are right behind us! Clear this, LZ! The Pelicans are right behind us! I can't see it!
Artillery disabled, Sergeant. Landing zone secure for the moment.
I hear you. Starting our approach. Hang tight.
Easier said than done. Inbound Phantoms, Chief. Another Phantom on approach.
You guys still having your little thing between a fad and a gimmick?
Another Phantom on approach.
Hello? No, we're still discussing.
You guys are still
No, I'm just
discussing-
glad you got them to stop talking for a few seconds.
Wait, actually? I got him to stop?
Yes,
Oh,
thank God. I'm just hearing bullshit. A bunch of bullshit.
me too. That's why I left. Because I'm actually streaming right now. If you guys
Spotted another one.
want. Ghost.
I'm gonna quit this discussion because it seems to be annoying everybody else. At the end of the day, I don't think just because it's a fad, it's a bad thing, and I think at some point it's gonna stop being a fad. I think at some day it's gonna be so widely spread and adopted that it's everyone's cup of tea. But I disagree that I can't call it a fad now. Just like I disagree that Pokemon wasn't a fad and all this other stuff wasn't a fad. I just, that's just where I am. You're probably not gonna be able to change my mind on that.
So another reason why I'm asking is like, so around 2012 was when the DK1 kit for Oculus was being developed. So around 2012, 2013, this is when that was kind of available. So it's all it's been has been a spike going up. The
Yes.
issue concept is, do you think it's going to die off? and then it'll
No.
be something that people just don't use.
No, I think it's going to be like movies or
Hold hands
sound
on the
television
Pelican
or
rides,
colored TV, where it gets so big that eventually it just becomes part of our media as a whole. But I don't agree that because it's taking that direction that it's not a fad right now. Because I believe
a
that
fad
colored
typically
TV,
would-
I think
comes
colored
that
TV
right.
and all
Be
these
that
other
it
things
dies
were
off.
fads. No, it doesn't.
It typically means what it does, and for the most part, and that's what I'm trying to say.
Eyes
But-
open.
Like, I mean,
But that's incorrect.
I got a
That's
good
not
view
how the
coming
word
in.
fad
It's
is
a big
used. A
building in
craze
the
can
middle of
die
the
off
Diamond's
without the product
I saw it too. It looked like a
ceasing
template.
demand.
If I were a
Do you see what I mean?
megalomaniac,
Like, a
that's
craze
not-
can go away.
I'm not
Where
saying
I-
that it I'm not saying that it's I'm not saying that products, I mean, shit, right? Anything throughout history that's ever been created is going to stay. It's not like it all just got destroyed and shit. So, I mean, that's not what a craze is. It means that the overall, you end up finding that most of the people who are going on about this or whatever, they start to die off, and then it's almost like having subscribers, right? Subscribers, right? You had 2 million subscribers, but now you've lost a shit ton of them, and then you turn into, like, you know, 100,000 or 200,000 subscriber channel now. You would say that, okay, the era of you has now kind of essentially ended because it's not the majority, it's now the minority.
I think the thing is we don't inherently disagree on VR, but the definition of a fad, and I don't think that's ever going to change. My definition of a fad is different than yours. I follow the textbook definition of a fad.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's
Kicking ass in
typically,
outer space.
right? Typically. So there's always an exception.
Covenant has
With
control of the bridge
profitability.
ahead. They're going to try and bottle
But
us
the
up
thing
on
is, I'm
this side
saying
of
that
the
if
board.
anything were adopted, because saying fad
Controls
is
to
essentially
extend the
inherently
bridge
saying
mean
that it
this
will die
section.
off at some point.
Watch
That's
out,
what
Chief!
it,
Race on the
that's
far
what it would
side!
have been essentially in and of itself.
And if that's how you feel about the word fad, that's one thing, but that's not how I feel about the word fad, because it's not what the textbook definition implies.
That's exactly what it is.
No, it is not.
We just looked at it, right?
If it says
It's
especially,
not saying
Extend the bridge
empirical. It's
in
not
this
saying
structure.
empirical, right?
Watch out,
If you're
Chief!
saying
Race on the far
especially, that
side!
means a majority of it would be like that. Now, what you're doing is you're arguing that a majority of the products that we print
but just because one doesn't follow that rule doesn't mean we should change the definition of the word as a whole.
I didn't.
You're
I'm
saying-
not changing the definition. That, I'm
You are
saying, like,
arguing
again-
with the semantics about whether or not it's a fad, despite the fact that you're saying that a fad doesn't have to die off. I'm saying it's a fad that's not going to die off, and you're still arguing with me.
especially
Controls
one
to
that
extend the
short
bridge
lived, right?
in
So that
this
means
structure.
the majority, the primary
out, Chief!
outcome would be
Race
that
on the
it
far
would be
side!
short-lived. Saying that a TV is short-lived would be ridiculous because everyone keeps using one, right? Saying
Yes,
that
but they
computers
still
are
started as a
short-lived
fad.
would be ridiculous.
But in the
Maybe
90s,
hype,
computers were
maybe
also
hype train,
considered a
but
fad.
a fad typically means it dies off. Maybe like the fad would be, hey look, you know, Xbox with their Xbox
Halo's
Connect.
dying off.
Sure,
I can
that's
say
the-
that.
no,
Even though I love Halo, Halo's
Yeah, they haven't been able to keep it going. I would say something along like, to me, it's really weird to think of a 50-year-long fad. What? Kind of thing. To me, that would be.
Well,
it's
that's
something
because it
gonna-
stops being a fad after a certain point. I think VR is a fad that has come in waves. It's a fad that comes and goes, just like Pokemon did with the fucking Pokemon Go shit, just like TVs did
Well,
whenever they added sound and then they added color. Those things changed, those fads evolved, and then they adopted and became a different kind of fad. Colored TV, well, originally TV was a fad, right? But then everyone had a TV. So then TVs with sound became a fad.
it
And then
became the
flat,
norm.
and then colored TV, and then flat screen TV. All of these were fads that became successful and became adapted into our day-to-day lives. But it doesn't change the fact that when they started, they were fads.
So do you think that things that come out new, that's what a fad is? Something that's new,
No.
something that's exciting and different.
No, something that's
That's
exciting and causes a huge widespread craze is a fad. Not anything that's new. Like if they come out, like I think 8K TVs are a fad. I think 8K
Well, yeah, we don't
resolution
really
is a
have-
fad.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we don't actually have technology that produces it properly unless you were to like multi-screen or something like
I
that.
think
because
1080p was also a fad. I think high definition was a fad. It's new, it's exciting, it gets widely adapted, and sometimes it
Well,
just
see,
becomes
but the
part
thing
of
is,
our life as a whole.
1080p,
But not
right?
always.
Use that right. So then you go
Good,
Yeah.
the bridge is down. Now
I
that
don't
feels
think
great.
of any of that. I guess in that degree, if we're talking about
Roger that.
as a
Armor's
fad,
on the way.
because all it is update, upgrade. Like if you wanted to talk about DVDs, right? DVDs. Blu-ray would be kind of,
Hey,
I guess,
careful, mate.
the concept of a fad because hey, you upgraded, did that, and they kind of had a